Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be joining us from around the world. Welcome to episode 154 of our Industry Insights. We began on World Backup Day in 2020, still going strong. Jason's got a little time off for good behavior, but we're really pleased to bring in a special guest from in Veeam's product market management solutions area, Billy Cashwell, to talk about. Unfortunately, Billy, everyone's favorite topic, cyber, but here's the fortunate part. We want to actually talk about what you can do to win the war on cyber. Good morning, Billy. For everyone that may not have met you yet, just tell us a little about yourself.
Hey, Dave. Good morning. And thanks again for having me on the show. I don't know if I can actually fill in or replace Jason, but I'll definitely look a lot better. It's great because we have all been together, you, Jason, and I, for over 20 years now. So it's nice to be able to collaborate with you guys. So again, good morning, everybody. My name's Billy Cashwell. I'm the Principal Product Marketing Manager and lead for Veeam Data Platform here at Veeam. Dave, like I said, 20 years, I've probably been doing nothing but backup for almost 30 years in this industry. So it's something I know and love. And, I just don't like it when cyber threats are attacking our backups that we know and love. So we have a lot to get into today. There's a lot of things that we can go through for sure. Happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. If we think about how can an organization, win the war on cyber, a couple quick stats. Billy and I are each going to share one. Billy, you've got one of your favorites, the number of backup repositories that are actually attacked. And I should actually share with everyone. You may have seen this on many of our different streams in the past. Jason and I do a lot of research readout. We have a ransomware trends report of 1,200 organizations that actually got hit with ransomware from around the world. And Billy, they're not just Veeam customers. In fact, only 6% are Veeam customers. So this truly is an industry report. But people are going after the backup repositories. The bad actors are trying to attack your backups, aren't they?
Absolutely. And the cyber criminals are getting smarter when it comes to doing this. It's not just about your backups. I mean, it's about keeping everything safe, keeping your business safe. Why do we back up, Dave? That's kind of where we have to start. We back up so that we can recover. And honestly, when it comes to cyber threats and specifically malware, specifically ransomware, think about what it does. It goes through and it attacks everything. We've seen over the past few years that about 93% of all attacks kind of getting into all attacks against data centers are targeting backups. And the crazy part is that when those things are, when these targets happen, about 40% of those backup repositories end up being affected, which really means that can you recover? And when it comes to cyber attack and malware and ransomware attack, and you've got to consider if your primary data has been recovered, or I'm sorry, your primary data has been encrypted, your backup data has been encrypted, your only option at that point is almost to go out of business, Dave, right? It's not a matter of can we recover our data. It's a matter of can we stay in business.
Yeah, and I like that. Can we recover? Speaking of recovery, the stat that I will share with everyone is on average, 3.4 weeks. So I'll just round up, Billy. Let's use simple math. 3.5 weeks it takes to recover per incident. And most of us are experiencing at least one incident per year, about 85% of us actually that we got from other research. And then half of us, 49%, are experiencing 2 or 3 cyber events per year. And if you think about that, that's a real problem. So what do we do about that? Let's get to the antidote. Here's our zip code that we like to talk about, or our nomenclature for what you do. You may have heard of the 3-2-1 rule. Simply means 3 or more copies of your data, 2 different types of media, one of which is offsite. Veeam, now going back a number of years, added a couple of digits here that you see in this green box on the right. We think, Billy, at least one of those copies ought to be offline, air-gapped, in some kind of storage that cannot be compromised, can't be overwritten. And yeah, I liked what you teed up earlier. Why do you back up? So that you can recover. Well, it's hard to back up things that are, may be missing, may be incomplete, may have errors in it. Veeam pioneered something that we call sure backup, sure replication. So that zero just means zero errors on backup so that you can go and retrieve a copy off of production if there's any issue. So 32110. So sort of simple nomenclature. Everyone out there, Billy, may have heard that, have a bunch of different copies. Immutability is not something that's probably new to everyone now. But I do want to riff with you a little bit on how you do immutability. And I'll give you first word on this.
Sure, absolutely. So if when we think about the 32110, right, everybody knows about 321. Everybody knows that one. But now that we're talking about malware, ransomware, cyber criminals, that extra 1 and 0 become very, very important. Most specifically, as you said, Dave, immutability. Of course, the backup needs to complete without errors. It needs to, actually capture what you want to recover, but you've got to keep that safe. Like we said, cyber criminals are getting smarter. The number one thing they're after is your backups, because they know if they get that, they're now threatening you with going out of business instead of just threatening you with some customer loss or some revenue loss. And when we talk about doing immutability, something that was wildly important for us and still is for us at Veeam is to be able to apply immutability your way. So whatever best works for you and your environment, what you have set up, how your primary site's set up, how your secondary site's set up. The key is that, first and foremost, we're not a primary security company, Dave, right? We are unapologetically, like you like to say, I steal this from you, we're unapologetically a backup company. We're unapologetically a recovery company. And because of that, we understand that it's important to safeguard your data, your backup data specifically, from creation all the way to deletion when you don't need it anymore. So keeping that immutable for the entire duration or the life cycle of your backups is going to be absolutely critical and requisite to keep the cyber criminals from encrypting them.
Yeah, and I like how you teed that up. So what we're trying to show here in orange is immutability at every stage in the backup lifecycle. Your first backup, your secondary copies, your archive copies, immutability in multiple different ways. We have a whole ecosystem of partners. We have a whole ecosystem of different cloud providers. We have inbuilt within Veeam ways to do this with our hardened repository. Yep. Billy, tape is still not dead. Actually,
it's not.
Tape has a very viable place to play in this kind of context, and it truly is air-gapped. But Billy, we also have service providers, actually tens of thousands of service providers around the world that can implement multi-stage protection, or what we call insider protection, where even if you have the backup administrator who makes a mistake or maybe does something malicious, the service provider can ensure that your backups truly are immutable. But let's switch to recovery. So far, we've talked about you want to capture the data. The data should be good, valid. You want multiple copies of your data. You want it to be immutable, like we were just saying. Take us through this, though, because sometimes, unfortunately, you're going to have to bring that back. And when you do, you're going to want it quickly.
Absolutely. And Dave, when you say quickly, something I like to talk about here at Veeam, something that we love and pride ourselves on, that's our instant recovery. Or as we like to say, recovery at the speed of instant. It doesn't get any faster than that. And when you think about you're always getting recovery requests, right? Small ones. That's just the typical life of a backup admin, IT admin, or even an application owner now, right? Needing to service these types of recoveries. And most of the time, people don't have time to wait. It slows things down. It affects progress. It affects productivity. And being able to put things back instantly has always been a game changer. But let's take that, Dave, from just, the rank and file, the stuff we do commonly every day. I've lost a file, I've deleted a file. And let's take that to the next level. I like how you kind of ended there on the previous one with your backups. They're under threat for sure, but it's not just cyber criminals. Sometimes it's just pure dumb human error. Right? Sometimes we delete things we should not delete. And that's a threat as well. So when it comes to cyber threats and or accidental, so we'll say accidental or malicious deletion of your backups or your backup set, that puts you in quite a precarious position where seconds count at that point. And if it's a cyber threat, remember, you've got to go do all of your triage, your CSI, if you will, going through trying to figure out what was the attack, where were we attacked, what are our indicators of compromise, where do we know we can recover without being reinfected. And when it gets to that point, that security team, Dave, is going to turn to the backup team and say, you guys got this, you got the recovery right. And if the backup team's running Veeam, they can say with confidence, yes, because not only I can recover, but I can meet my recovery SLAs or service level objectives, whether that's recovery point objective, recovery time objective, how to go back to a certain point of time. And I can do all of that instantly, Dave. When it comes time to recover, everybody, is going to fall into the same need, but being able to do that instantly just reduces the amount of loss that you can suffer. So a lot of good stuff wrapped up in that one, but it's definitely the key to many things, unlocking many things. So.
Yeah, well said. And, being pioneered instant recovery going on almost 13 years ago.
That's
now.
Correct.
We've been perfecting that ever since. What I mean by that is, the types of workloads that we see on the left there, whether it's a virtual machine, a cloud instance, physical instances, database, NAS or unstructured data, file share data, meaning we can protect and instantly recover that. But how we recover, where we recover is where we've been putting additional technology and innovation into. Bring it back to any VM. You can take a physical workload or any of these workloads over on the left-hand side and bring that back into a virtual machine. That could be on-prem, it could be in the cloud. So you see that cloud-based VM recovery. You can bring back an individual disk or an instant recovery of a database volume or an entire NAS. So Billy, this is one of my favorite things to talk about in terms of cyber. NAS systems tend to have tens of thousands of files, perhaps hundreds of thousands of files.
Millions.
Yes, or more, to your point. Absolutely. We have an instant recovery where we can bring back an entire network attached storage or file share at scale, all of those items to a known good point before the attack happened. Instantly bring back tens of thousands of files to the known state before the attack actually hit the system and corrupted your data. Not having to go through one by one, volume by volume, or walk trees associated with that NAS or file share, but to bring it all back quickly. So one of the interesting things that we've been doing is how to do this at scale. So tens of thousands of files or many VMs as an example, and also how to do this without necessarily having to have solid state disk or only rely on the most recent backup. We can actually do a number of clever tricks underneath the covers, some IO prefetching, some pattern recognition to be able to go and get data back very, very rapidly. So even if you're not running on an all-flash array, even if you're not only bringing data from your most recent backup, so in other words, you already have that cached in flash somewhere, you can bring this back very, very rapidly. But Billy, one of the challenges, your data center may be a crime scene. You mentioned CSI. If people are familiar with that television series, I think there was about 3 different CSIs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, one of the challenges I want to turn it over to you is, well, maybe you don't have the metal. Maybe you don't have the machinery to recover.
Yeah, it's we work at a data recovery company, like we said before. So through our support cases, through questions, through our sales teams, we see more recoveries and more recovery situations than anybody else on the planet. And the things that we learn from that is, when it's coming time, especially like coming from NAS and things like that, right? You're talking about how you can actually get it back and how you can get it back correctly. And, some of the things we talk about is where you're recovering to. Dave, when we mentioned the CSI standpoint, I talk about we see more recovery than anyone. We've definitely had cases where data centers are taped off. Police tape, police line, do not cross. You can't access things. What do? You've got to remain in business. You've got to continue. And that's why where you will recover to and having that recovery flexibility, Dave, that's so important. You talked about in the on the previous slide about being able to take any Veeam backup and recover that directly and instantly back to a VM. Same thing when it talks about location, right? You may not have the metal. You may not even be able to afford a colo or an edge location. And the cloud is that affordable solution for you. It's that OpEx for you. And that is, again, something that we pride ourselves on to make sure that no matter where you need to recover to, the experience is going to be fast, streamlined, and repeatable. And it's something you can depend on. And Dave, that last bit is the most important. If you do not have confidence in your recovery and confidence in your response, then you're in a troubled position right now in today's marketplace, or I should say today's world of cyber threats, right? So you got to have that confidence, Dave.
Yeah. And that's where hopefully immutability helps you, but being able to recover to any kind of a cloud instance or being able to recover to a hypervisor environment that you can put anywhere, being able to take this portable information packet. One of the things that is unique about Veeam is that we write our data in a self-describing manner, meaning that the data is self-sufficient. Even if the bad actors try to take out your backup catalog, much like a PDF reader can go and read the files. In this case, you have to have your credentials, of course, but we can actually be able to bring that data back without even standing up an instance of Veeam if that were to be required. Or you can stand up a brand new instance of Veeam that has no history, no knowledge of your previous backup environment. To your point, Billy, your on-premises may be compromised. It may be considered a crime scene. You've got to bring that back to an alternate location. You may not have the backup database because, as you said, 93% of the bad actors are going after your backup. They want the money, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And Dave, I think it's interesting we talk about that portability. Worst case, so if you've got an internet connection, you could grab Veeam Community Edition. It's absolutely free. You can pull it down. It's very lightweight just to get the recovery done. You don't have to go through recatalogings or anything crazy like that because, again, that data format is absolutely portable. You could think about that. It doesn't have to just be a recovery scenario. You could use that for migration. You could decide to move your backup stores to something better, or something larger, more performant storage. And it doesn't even skip a beat, right? That portable data format, like instant recovery, is such a core building block to how we do things and how we think about things that you really see it pervasive in everything we do.
Brilliant. Well, as we begin to land the plane a little bit, Billy and I were actually chomping at the bit to share brand new upcoming information, more details on new product releases, but we're kind of literally under embargo for a little while longer, not too much longer. Actually, just coming up next week, tell us about a virtual event that we're going to have in the United States, in Europe, and all of Americas. It's going to be October 24th. For Asia Pacific out there, it's going to be on October 25th, local year time. But Veeam's going to have a special event, Billy, and maybe you can help us understand a little bit what that's going to look like.
Yeah, Dave, we are super excited about the Resiliency Summit. This is, we've heard it from our customers. We've heard it from potential customers that the time is now to do something. We need a message around security. We need a path forward. We're dealing with ransomware. It needs to be confronted. It needs to be contained. It needs to be conquered. At VeeamON Resiliency Summit, we're working hard to help you do that. So we're going to be talking about many things, including Veeam Data Platform's newest release, the 23H2 release, also known including Veeam Backup and Replication V12.1. And Dave, we've got quite a group assembled of people that we're going to be talking to, right? So you can see all the Veeamers surrounding in green, a lot of the usual suspects and friends that you know and love here at Veeam. But they're in the center. We understand that as Dave, we said unapologetically a backup company. We're a recovery company. When it comes to really hitting hard in the security industry and being a good citizen in the data center, again, we're not a primary security company. We're not here to make a primary security product. We're here to help you recover when things go bad. So in order to understand how these two things come together, because Dave, there's a stat that's in our ransomware trends report, and it bothers me at my core, as an old data center guy. It says about 60% of IT and security teams don't have a super close relationship. Remember the scenario I went through when I said, the security teams are doing their triage, or going through and figuring out, where did we get attacked? What was it? What was affected? All right, backup team, recovery team, IT team, you got this, right? It needs to be more integrated than that. And we're convicted here at Veeam that we are the catalyst to bring the IT and security teams together. I should say, bring security and the IT teams together. So that's what we're doing here in the center, right? You see, we've got people like security experts, CISOs, ethical white hat hackers. We've got DoD officials, so many people talking about wonderful things, well, or some scary things in some cases, right? But the wonderful ways that Veeam can help you stay in business and ultimately keep your business running. And at the end of this, we're going to have a lot of different announcements. We'll be talking about our Veeam 2024 reveals, and we're really excited about it. So definitely come check us out. 1 week, it's on next Tuesday. Unless you're APJ, it's 25th. So
brilliant. Well, Billy, thanks so much for joining me today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Here's that QR code and where you can go and scan register for that event. Until the next stream, stay safe, stay positive, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.